Jake Morrison opened his eyes slowly. His head felt heavy, and his mouth was dry. Everything around him looked strange and bright. He tried to sit up, but his body felt weak, like he had been sleeping for a very long time. The first thing he noticed was the wall in front of him. It was not really a wall. It was clear like glass, but stronger. He could see through it to the other side. Strange creatures were looking at him. They were tall and blue with 4 arms each. Their eyes were big and yellow. They made clicking sounds with their mouths as they pointed at him. Jake looked around his small space. The floor was soft and white. There was a bed, a toilet, and a small area with water. Everything was clean but felt cold. The ceiling above him glowed with a soft white light. He realized he was in some kind of cage or cell, but it looked more like a room in a hospital. More of the blue creatures came to look at him. Some were small, probably children. Others were bigger, like adults. They all made the same clicking sounds.
Yeah.
Some held small devices that flashed lights at him, as Jake felt. Like an animal in a zoo being looked at by visitors, he tried to remember how he got here. The last thing he could recall was being in Afghanistan. He was a Marine, part of a patrol unit. There had been an explosion, a bright light, then nothing. That felt like yesterday, not long ago at all. One of the blue creatures approached. The glass wall. This one wore a white coat like a doctor. It had a device in one of its 4 hands. The device made sounds, but Jake could understand the words somehow. "This specimen is from the planet Earth," the creature said. "Humans were a violent species that destroyed themselves in wars. This male is one of the last examples of their kind. Notice the primitive bone structure and the small brain cavity." Jake stood up quickly. His legs were shaky, but he managed to stay upright. "Hey," he shouted. "I can hear you. I'm not some animal." The blue creature stepped back in surprise. The one with the white coat made more clicking sounds to the others. Then it spoke into its device again. "The specimen shows signs of intelligence, but this is likely just basic survival instinct. Humans were known for their aggressive behavior. When threatened, aggressive." Jake pressed his hands against the glass wall. "You kidnapped me? Of course I'm upset." The doctor creature looked at Jake with interest. It spoke to the other creatures in their clicking language. Jake could not understand those words. Then it turned back to its device. "We will study this human's reactions for our research. The species Earth human lived approximately 200 years ago. Their planet was destroyed in nuclear warfare. This specimen was preserved in deep freeze by our science teams for educational purposes." Jake felt his heart racing. 200 years? Nuclear warfare? None of this made sense.
What?
"Year is it?" he demanded. "Where am I?" The doctor ignored his questions and continued talking to the crowd of visitors. Humans were unable to control their violent nature. They fought constant wars and could not work together peacefully. This led to their extinction. They serve as a warning to other species about the dangers of unchecked aggression. That's not true. Jake slammed his fist against the glass. It was incredibly strong and did not even crack. "Humans aren't like that. We help each other. We build things together." Crowd of blue creatures seemed excited by his reaction. More of them gathered around his enclosure. Jake realized that his anger was entertaining them. They wanted to see the aggressive human act violent. He took a deep breath and stepped away from the glass. If these aliens thought humans were nothing but violent animals, he would not give them the show they wanted. He sat down on his bed and tried to think clearly. The doctor creature seemed disappointed that Jake had calmed down. It said something to the crowd and they began to move away to look at other exhibits.
How?
Jake realized there were other enclosures around his. He could see creatures from different planets, all trapped like him in glass boxes for visitors to stare at. When the area became quiet, Jake looked more carefully at his surroundings. He noticed small cameras in the corners watching him. There were air vents near the ceiling. The glass wall had a seam where it probably opened for cleaning. Everything was designed to keep him inside, but also to keep him alive and healthy. Small slot opened in one wall and a tray of food slid through. The food looked strange, but smelled okay. There were also clothes on the tray, simple gray pants and a shirt. Jake was still wearing his military uniform, but it was old and torn. He ate the food carefully. It tasted bland but not bad. As he ate, he thought about what the doctor had said. 200 years, Earth destroyed, humans extinct. It could not be true, but how could he prove it? Jake looked at the other creatures in nearby exhibits. Looked like a giant insect. Another was covered in fur and had 6 legs. They all looked sad and tired, like they had been here for a long time. He decided he needed to learn more about this place. If he was going to escape, he had to understand how everything worked. Jake had been trained as a Marine to observe and adapt. Even if these aliens thought he was just a dumb animal, it would prove them wrong. The lights in the ceiling began to dim, probably meaning it was nighttime. Jake lay down on the bed but did not sleep. He listened to the sounds of the building. He watched the patterns of the guards who walked by. He studied every detail of his prison. These blue creatures had made a big mistake. They thought they had captured a simple, violent human. Instead, they had taken a United States Marine who would never give up trying to get home. Jake Morrison was going to show them exactly what humans were really capable of. Jake woke up when the lights came on. He had slept very little during the night. Every sound in the building had caught his attention. He was learning the schedule of this place. Guards walked by every 2 hours. Cleaning machines came through. At dawn, the visitors would arrive soon. He sat up and stretched his muscles. The bed was comfortable, but he missed his old life. Jake wondered if anyone on Earth was looking for him. Did his family think he was dead? How long had they been waiting? For him to come home? The food slot opened, and breakfast appeared. Jake ate quickly and put on the gray clothes they had given him. His military uniform was too damaged to wear anymore. He folded it carefully and kept it on the bed. It reminded him of who he really was. Soon the first visitors of the day arrived. Jake watched them carefully. The blue creatures seemed to have different jobs. Some wore white coats like doctors. Others had dark blue uniforms like security guards. Regular visitors wore colorful clothes and carried cameras. 2 of the white coat creatures stopped in front of his enclosure. Jake recognized one of them as the doctor from yesterday. The other was smaller and seemed younger. They were carrying tablet devices and talking in their clicking language. Jake moved closer to the glass to listen. He still could not understand their natural language, but he hoped they would use the translation device again. He pretended to be curious about them, like a friendly animal might be. The older doctor noticed Jake watching them. He pulled out its translation device and spoke to the younger one. "This is Dr. Kexnel. I am showing him our most interesting specimen." The younger Dr. Kexnel looked at Jake with bright yellow eyes. This human seems different from the records. More alert, more aware. Yes, the older doctor agreed. Most specimens in preservation show some brain damage from the freezing process. This one appears to have maintained higher cognitive function. Jake listened carefully. They were talking about him like he was a science experiment, but they were also giving him information. He was preserved by freezing. That explained why he felt like only 1 day had passed since Afghanistan. Dr. Kexnel tapped his tablet. "What do we know about Earth's current status?" "The records show nuclear destruction, but when was the last survey mission?" The older doctor looked around nervously. "Dr. Urazon, we should not discuss classified information here. The specimen cannot understand our conversation," Kexnel said. "Besides, the information is quite old." Dr. Urazon moved closer to the glass. "The last survey was conducted 50 years ago. Long-range sensors detected no signs of civilization. The planet appeared to be recovering from massive warfare damage." Jake felt his heart sink. 50 years ago, Earth was still damaged from wars. But that meant the planet might be healing now. Maybe humans were still alive after all. "But sir," Kexnel said quietly, "I have heard rumors from the Outer Rim colonies. Some traders speak of encounters with ships using unknown technology. Ships that match old human designs." Dr. Urazon looked shocked. "Impossible. The High Council confirmed human extinction decades ago. These specimens are museum pieces, the last remnants of a failed species." "Of course, sir. I am sure the Council is correct." But Kexnel did not sound convinced. The 2 doctors moved away to look at other Exhibits. Jake sat down on his bed, his mind racing. Unknown ships with human designs. That sounded like humans were not only alive, but building new technology. Maybe even spaceships. Throughout the day, Jake watched and listened to every conversation. Most visitors just made comments about how scary or primitive he looked. But some of the staff members gave away more information. During lunchtime, 2 security guards stopped near his enclosure. They were eating food from containers and talking casually. "My cousin works at the spaceport," one guard said through the translator. "He says they have been getting strange reports from the border systems." "What kind of reports?" the other guard asked. "Ships that do not respond to standard communications. Fast ships with weapons we do not recognize. The fleet command is keeping it quiet, but they are worried. It's probably just pirates or rebels from the outer colonies." "Maybe. But my cousin says these ships rescued some Nexari refugees from slavers last month." "No one has ever helped the Nexari before. Pirates do not usually rescue slaves for free." The guards finished their food and walked away. Jake felt excitement building in his chest. Humans helping other species. That sounded exactly like something his people would do. Americans had always fought against slavery and oppression. Maybe Earth was not only alive, but spreading that spirit to the stars. Late in the afternoon, a group of young blue creatures came to visit with their teacher. They were probably students on a school trip. The teacher stood in front of Jake's enclosure and began a lesson. "This creature represents the failure of unchecked aggression," the teacher said. "Humans could not control their violent instincts. They destroyed their own planet rather than learn to cooperate." One young student raised a hand. "Teacher, why do humans look so much like the Nexari liberation fighters we saw in the news?" The teacher looked uncomfortable. "Convergent evolution. Similar environments produce similar body types. It means nothing. But the news said those fighters were very brave. They saved thousands of Nexari families from the slave markets." That is different. Those were civilized beings helping others. "This specimen is from a primitive, extinct species." Jake wanted to shout that the student was right. The liberation fighters probably were human. His people were out there fighting the good fight, helping others who needed help, just like they always had. As the day ended and the lights dimmed, Jake felt more hopeful than he had since waking up. The aliens who captured him thought humans were extinct monsters. But the evidence suggested something very different. Humanity was not only alive, but doing what humans did best. They were helping others and fighting against injustice. Jake looked out through his glass wall at the other trapped creatures. Tomorrow he would start planning not just his own escape, but a way to help all of them. If humans really were out there among the stars, they would want to shut down this place and free everyone inside. He smiled for the first time since his capture. These aliens had no idea what they had gotten themselves into by keeping a human prisoner. They were about to learn that Marines never leave anyone behind. Jake had been in the zoo for 5 days when everything changed. He was doing his morning exercises, push-ups, and sit-ups to stay strong when he heard a commotion near the entrance. Guards were rushing around, and visitors were being moved away. From certain areas, through his glass wall, Jake could see them bringing in a new exhibit. It was another clear cage like his own, but smaller. The guards were struggling with something inside a metal transport box. Jake heard shouting in a language that made his heart race. "English. Let me go. You cannot do this. I am a Federation citizen." The voice was female and angry. Jake pressed his face against the glass to get a better look. When they opened the transport box, a young woman stumbled out. She had dark hair and wore a blue uniform Jake did not recognize. She was definitely human. The guards forced her into the enclosure next to Jake's. She immediately ran to the glass wall separating them and pressed her hands against it. Her eyes went wide when she saw Jake. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Are you human?" Jake nodded quickly and moved to his side of the dividing wall. "Morrison, United States Marine Corps." "Who are you?" "Lisa Chang, pilot with the Terran Federation." She looked around at the zoo setup and her face showed disgust. "How long have you been here?" 5 days that I know of. But they say I was frozen for 200 years. Jake kept his voice low so the guards would not hear. "What's the Terran Federation?" Lisa's eyes softened. The government that formed after Earth united. Jake, what year do you think it is for me? 2023. I was in Afghanistan when something happened. It's 2425 now. Earth not only survived the wars, we made it to the stars. We have colonies on dozens of worlds and alliances with friendly alien species. Lisa smiled sadly. These blue guys, the Zephyrians, they've been taking humans for their zoos for over a century. We've been looking for people like you. Jake felt. Relief flood through him. Humans had made it. They were out there among the stars, just like he had hoped. How did they catch you? My scout ship was damaged near their border. I had to make an emergency landing on one of their mining worlds. They stunned me before I could send a distress signal. Lisa looked frustrated. Ship has a beacon, but it's programmed to only activate with my biometric signature. Where's your ship now? Probably in their impound facility. But even if we could get to it, the beacon needs both a pilot signature and a passenger signature to prevent aliens from using captured Federation technology. Jake understood. So we both need to be there to make it work. Exactly. I'm betting they put that ship somewhere far from here. A Zephyrian worker approached their enclosures, pushing a cleaning cart. This alien looked different from the others. It was smaller, with grayish skin instead of blue, and only 2 arms. Its movements were nervous, and it kept looking around like it was scared. The worker began cleaning the area between their cages. It moved slowly, like it was listening to their conversation. Jake decided to take a chance. "Thank you for keeping this place clean," he said loudly in English. The worker stopped and looked at him with surprise, and it glanced around to make sure no guards were watching. "You speak with kindness," it said in broken English. "Most exhibits do not notice workers." Lisa moved closer to her glass wall. "What's your name?" "I am called Quill. I am Nexari, not Zephyrian. My people are servants here." Quill continued cleaning but spoke quietly. "I have worked in this place for many years. I see how they treat thinking beings like animals." Jake felt hope growing. "Quill, do you know where they keep captured ships?" "The impound facility is connected to this building by underground tunnels. I clean there sometimes." Quill looked sad. "I've seen your ship, Pilot Chang. It is beautiful. The Zephyrians cannot understand its systems. Could you help us get there?" Lisa asked. Quill stopped cleaning and looked directly at them. "Why would you help my people if you escape? Humans are supposed to be violent and selfish." "That is what the Zephyrians teach us." Jake pressed his hand against the glass. "Because that's not who we are. Humans help others who need help. If your people are being treated badly, we want to make it better." "The Nexari have been slaves to the Zephyrians for 300 years, Quill said quietly. "We clean their buildings, work their mines, grow their food. In return, they give us barely enough to survive." Lisa's face showed anger. "The Federation has laws against slavery. If we get out of here, we'll make sure help comes for your people." Quill looked around again, then made a decision. "I will think about this. But know that helping you would mean death for me if I am caught." "We understand," Jake said. "We won't ask you to do anything that puts you in danger." Quill nodded and moved away with his cart. Jake and Lisa spent the rest of the day planning quietly. They learned each other's backgrounds and skills. Lisa had been trained in Federation technology and combat tactics. Jake had military experience and survival training. Together, they might actually have a chance. That evening, after the zoo closed, Quill returned. He pretended to clean while he talked to them. "I have been thinking about what you said."
"Oh."
"About helping the Nexari." Quill's voice was hopeful, but scared. "Is it true that humans fight against slavery?" "It's true," Jake said firmly. "We fought a civil war on Earth to end slavery. We would do the same thing here." "The impound facility has weak security at night," Quill said slowly. "Only 2 guards and automated systems. But getting out of these cages is impossible." Lisa smiled. "Let me worry about that part. These enclosures are designed to keep primitive species inside. Probably never expected to hold someone with Federation training." "What do you need from me?" Quill asked. "Access codes for the tunnels, a map of the facility." and maybe some tools that won't be missed from your cleaning supplies. Quill was quiet for a long moment. If I help you and you escape, will you really remember the Nexary? Jake looked him straight in the eyes. I give you my word as a United States Marine. We will not forget. I promise as a Federation pilot, Lisa added. Your people will be free. Quill nodded slowly. Then we will try. Tomorrow night, when the late shift begins, I will bring what you need. As Quill left, Jake felt the familiar excitement of a mission beginning. He had been trapped and helpless for days, but now he had allies and a plan. The Zephyrians thought they had captured 2 primitive specimens for their zoo. Instead, they had brought together a Marine and a Federation pilot who were about to show them what humans could really do when they worked together. The escape would be dangerous, but Jake had been in dangerous situations before. And this time, he was not fighting just for himself. He was fighting for Lisa, for Quill, for all. The Nexari slaves, and for every other being trapped in this place. It was exactly the kind of fight that made him proud to be human. The next night came slowly for Jake. He had spent the day acting normal, doing exercises and eating his meals like any other day. But inside, he was preparing for the most important mission of his life. Lisa had been doing the same in her cage, stretching and testing her muscles quietly. When the zoo closed and the night shift began, Quill appeared with his cleaning cart. He moved normally at first, cleaning the floors and walls. But when he reached their enclosures, he whispered without, looking at them. I have what you need. Small tools hidden in my cart. Access codes written on cleaning cloths. Are you ready? Ready, Jake whispered back. Lisa nodded from her cage. What about the guards? To guards patrol the main halls every hour. They will pass here in 20 minutes, then not return for another hour. The security cameras can be disabled from the maintenance panel, but only for 10 minutes before automatic backup starts. Quill pretended to clean Jake's glass wall while he slipped a small metal tool through the food slot. It looked like a cleaning device, but Jake could see it was actually a modified electronic lockpick. The emergency medical override, Quill explained quietly. If you pretend to have a heart attack, the cage will unlock automatically for medical access, but you must move fast. Jake palmed the device. How do we get Lisa out? Once your cage opens, you can use that tool on her lock manually. It will take 2 minutes if you know what you are doing. Lisa had been listening carefully. I know Federation lock systems. I can talk him through it. Quill moved to the maintenance panel on the wall between their cages. He opened it and pointed. 2 different controls. Red button disables cameras. Green button resets the system. You have 10 minutes maximum. What about the tunnels to the impound facility? Jake asked. Follow the blue maintenance lights in the floor. They lead to all connected buildings. Your ship is in Hangar 7. I put the hangar codes on the cleaning cloth. Quill looked nervous but determined. Remember your promise about the Nexari. We remember, Jake said firmly. Quill nodded and continued his cleaning routine. He moved away from their area as the first patrol came through. 2 Zephyrian guards walked slowly down the hall, checking each exhibit quickly. They barely glanced at Jake and Lisa before continuing their rounds. When the guards disappeared around the corner, Jake moved into position. He lay down on his bed and began acting like he was having chest pains. He made choking sounds and grabbed at his chest dramatically. Help! Medical emergency! Lisa shouted from her cage, playing her part perfectly. Alarms began beeping immediately. Red lights flashed on the walls. The automated medical system detected Jake's distress and began its emergency sequence. His cage door clicked and slid open with a soft hiss. Jake jumped up immediately and ran to the maintenance panel. He hit the red button and watched the security cameras shut down one by one. Then he grabbed the lockpick tool and rushed to Lisa's enclosure. Bottom left corner of the doorframe, Lisa instructed quickly. There's a small panel. Pry it open. Jake found the panel and worked the tool inside. His hands were steady despite the adrenaline pumping through his body. Years of military training had taught him to stay calm under pressure. Now twist left and pull the blue wire, Lisa continued. Jake followed her instructions exactly. The lock clicked and Lisa's door slid open just as the guards came running back toward the medical alarm.
Sway.
Jake grabbed Lisa's hand and they ran toward the maintenance tunnel entrance that Quill had shown them. Behind them, they could hear the guards shouting in their clicking language. More alarms began sounding as the guards discovered the empty cages. Jake and Lisa reached the tunnel entrance just as emergency lights flooded the exhibit area. The tunnels were dark, except for the blue floor lights that Quill had mentioned. Jake and Lisa ran as fast as they could, following the glowing path deeper underground. The tunnels were narrow and filled with pipes and cables clearly designed for maintenance workers, not prisoners. "How much time do we have?" Lisa panted. As they ran, not much. "They'll figure out we used the medical override and start checking all the tunnels." Jake checked the cleaning cloth with the codes. Hangar 7 should be just ahead. They reached a junction where several tunnels met. Signs in Zephyrian writing pointed in different directions. Jake found the symbols that matched what Quill had drawn for them and led Lisa down the correct path. The tunnel ended at a heavy metal door marked with the number 7. Jake entered the access code that Quill had provided. The door opened with a loud clank that echoed through the tunnels. Inside the hangar, Lisa's ship sat under bright lights. It was sleek and silver, much more advanced-looking than anything Jake had seen on Earth, but it also looked damaged. Scorch marks covered one side, and several panels were missing. "They've been trying to study it," Lisa said angrily. "Those idiots probably damaged half the systems." They ran to the ship, and Lisa quickly opened the entrance hatch. Inside, the cockpit was filled with strange controls and displays that Jake did not recognize. Lisa immediately began checking systems and powering up the engines. "The beacon transmitter is intact," she said with relief. "But we need both our biometric signatures to activate it." "What do I need to do?" "Put your hand on the scanner while I put mine on the pilot scanner. The system will read our DNA and broadcast our location to any Federation ships in the area." Jake placed his hand on the indicated panel. It felt warm and tingled slightly. At the same time, Lisa put her hand on another scanner near the pilot's seat. The ship's computers came alive with beeping sounds and flashing lights. "Signal transmitted," Lisa announced. "Now we just have to hope someone is close enough to receive it." Suddenly the hangar doors began opening. Zephyrian guards poured in, carrying energy weapons that glowed with blue light. They surrounded the ship and began shouting orders. Dr. Urizon appeared behind the guards, looking furious. He activated his translation device and spoke loudly. "Surrender immediately. You cannot escape. There are no other humans in this sector." Jake looked at Lisa. "Can this ship fly?" "Maybe, but not far with the damage they caused. And we'd never make it past their orbital defenses." More guards kept arriving. Soon there were dozens of them pointing weapons at the ship.
Ow.
Jake realized they were trapped, but then he smiled. It did not matter anymore. The signal had been sent. If there really were Federation ships out there, they would know exactly where to find them. "Dr. Urizon," Jake called out through the ship's communication system, "made a big mistake. Kidnapping Federation citizens? Impossible. Humans are extinct. This is some kind of trick." Lisa activated the ship's external speakers. "You're about to learn just how wrong you are about that." In the distance, alarms began sounding throughout the entire facility. But these were different alarms, warning of incoming ships. Jake and Lisa looked at each other and grinned. Help. It was already on the way. The Zephyrians were about to discover that humans never abandoned their own. They were definitely not extinct. The alarms grew louder as Jake and Lisa waited inside the damaged ship. Through the hangar's open doors, they could see Zephyrian soldiers running in all directions. Something had them very scared. Dr. Urizon was shouting orders at his guards, but his voice sounded panicked. He kept looking up at the ceiling like he expected something terrible to fall from the sky. Jake noticed that some of the younger guards were backing away from the ship, their weapons shaking in their forehands. "What's happening out there?" Jake asked Lisa. "Long-range sensors are detecting multiple contacts approaching fast." Lisa read from her ship's displays. "Really fast. Those are Federation military vessels." A new voice suddenly filled the hangar, speaking in clear English through the facility's communication system. The voice was calm and confident, with the tone of someone used to being obeyed.
Oh, this...
is Captain Ryan Brooks of the Federation starship Endeavour. We have received a distress signal from this location. You are ordered to release all Federation citizens immediately and prepare for inspection. Dr. Yurazan activated his translation device with shaking hands. This is impossible. There are no humans in this sector. Your species is extinct. Captain Brooks's voice came back with a hint of amusement. Doctor, I can see from orbit that you have a very nice zoo down there. I can also see that you have been keeping my people in cages like animals. This ends now. Through the hangar opening, Jake could see lights moving across the sky. Ships were coming down through the atmosphere, more ships than he could count. They were sleek and powerful looking, clearly built for war but moving with perfect precision. Surrender your facilities and prepare to be boarded, Captain Brooks continued. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force. Dr. Yurazan looked around at his guards desperately. Open fire on the human ship. Kill the specimens before they can be rescued. But the guards hesitated. They had heard the captain's voice and seen the ships in the sky. These were not the primitive, extinct humans they had been told about. These were advanced beings with powerful military forces. One guard finally spoke up. Doctor, if humans have ships that can travel between stars, maybe we should listen to them. They are supposed to be dead, Dr. Yurazan screamed. The High Council said so. Jake opened the ship's hatch and stepped out with his hands visible, but not raised. He was not surrendering, showing that he was not afraid. Dr. Jake said calmly, Your High Council lied to you. Humans have been alive and growing stronger for 200 years. We have colonies on dozens of worlds. We have allies among many species, and we do not forget our people. Lisa joined him outside the ship. We also do not forget our friends. Where is Quill? Before Dr. Yurazan could answer, the hangar shook as Federation ships landed outside. Heavy footsteps echoed through the tunnels as armed soldiers approached. But these soldiers were not alone. Jake could hear other voices, speaking in different alien languages. Captain Brooks entered the hangar with a squad of Federation Marines. But he also brought allies. They were tall, insect-like beings with multiple arms, furry creatures that looked like bears, but walked upright and small, quick beings with large eyes that reminded Jake of lemurs. Captain Ryan Brooks, Federation Navy. The captain introduced himself to Jake and Lisa. He was a middle-aged man with gray hair and kind eyes. But his uniform showed the insignia of someone who had seen many battles. Sorry we're late. We've been tracking Zephyrian slaving operations for months. Slaving operations? Dr. Yurazan looked confused. We run educational facilities, preserve extinct species for scientific study. One of the insect-like aliens stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice was translated by a device similar to the Zephyrian ones, but much more advanced. I am Ambassador Clickthera of the Nexari Liberation Front. We represent all species that have suffered under Zephyrian oppression. This facility is a prison, not a zoo. Jake smiled when he heard the word Nexari. Is Quill with you? A small gray-skinned figure pushed through the crowd of aliens. It was Quill, but he looked different. He stood straighter and wore clean clothes instead of his worker uniform. Behind him came dozens of other Nexori, all looking hopeful for the first time in years. Jake Morrison, Quill said with a big smile. You kept your promise. The Federation. Ships arrived just hours after your signal. They brought ships from the Liberation Front too. Captain Brooks looked around the hangar with disgust. We've been liberating facilities like this across 3 star systems. The Zephyrian Empire has been taking sentient beings for their zoos for over a century. This is outrageous, Dr. Yurazan protested. We are a civilized species. We follow the laws of science. Lisa laughed bitterly. Civilized species don't keep thinking beings in cages for entertainment. The Galactic Council will hear about this, Dr. Yurazan threatened. Captain Brooks smiled. The Galactic Council already knows. They voted last month to impose economic sanctions on the Zephyrian Empire until all prisoners are released. You're a little behind on current events. Jake watched as Federation soldiers and Liberation Front members spread throughout the facility, opening cages and freeing prisoners. He could hear voices speaking in dozens of languages, all expressing joy and relief at their freedom. What happens? Now, Jake asked the captain. Now we take everyone home who wants to go home? We help the Nexari establish their own government on worlds far from Zephyrian control? And we set up a Federation embassy right here on Zarian Prime to make sure this never happens again. Dr. Yurzon looked defeated. The High Council will never allow a human embassy. The High Council will allow whatever we tell them to allow, Captain Brooks said firmly. Your military couldn't stop a Federation scout ship, much less our battle fleet. The age of Zephyrian expansion is over. Jake looked around at all the freed prisoners, at Quill and his people celebrating their liberation, at Lisa standing proud. In her Federation uniform, a few days ago he had been a specimen in a zoo, thought to be the last of a dead species. He was witnessing the birth of a new era of cooperation between the stars. Captain, Jake said, I'd like to volunteer to stay here as part of the embassy staff. Someone needs to make sure this place becomes what it should be. What's that, Marine? Jake smiled as he watched a group of young Nexari children playing. With some of the other freed prisoners, all of them laughing together despite coming from different worlds. A place where different species learn about each other as equals. A place where everyone is free. Captain Brooks nodded approvingly. Think that's exactly what this galaxy needs, Jake Morrison. Welcome to the Federation Diplomatic Corps. Former zoo was about to become something much better. A symbol that humans had not only survived among the stars, but had brought their best qualities with them. The refusal to abandon those in need, the determination to fight injustice, and the wisdom to turn enemies into friends. The human monster had become a bridge between worlds,